Teenagers who ran away from home and never returned. What happened? 1. My mother was always difficult, but she had made me her counselor, her best friend, and her punching bag, both physically and emotionally. After my father left, everything got worse. There wasn't a single day when she wouldn't scream at me or chase me around the house if I didn't do whatever she assumed was obvious this time. At 15, I ran away to my boyfriend. She knew about it, so I'm not sure if it counts, but I cut ties with her then. The boyfriend was abusive, and since I had nowhere else to go, I lived like that for 8 months before I couldn't take it anymore. I ran to a new guy. Yes, I know, it's complicated, and I'm skipping the backstory to keep this shorter. He was abusive too. I ended up in a mental hospital with my mother's help, and returned home. The beatings stopped, but not the rest. At 17, I moved to the capital almost overnight. She knew about it, since it was for evening school. I cut ties for good a year ago after everything got worse and worse, and I'm only starting to process what she did to me. She always said my running away at 15 was just puberty and defiance, but it wasn't. I just couldn't handle the screaming and hitting anymore. She once threw a knife at me and barely missed, though there was some blood. That's one example of how far she would go. I was 15 and not ready to live on my own or with a boyfriend. The fact that I chose that over my supposed home should show that things weren't okay. I'm okay now. I'm still in therapy, in a healthy relationship for over 3 years, have a stable support network, and I'm working toward a proper job after studying all this time. 2. I was 19, and my dad had just physically attacked me. Usually my mother was the problem, but that day my dad flipped out over something I can't even remember, grabbed me, and threw me on the ground and over the counter while screaming. I'd had enough of their bullshit, so I packed a bag and rode my motorbike to a friend's mom's house. She knew about my home life and had offered her home as a safe place if I ever needed it. She literally saved my life, and I'm forever grateful. We don't talk anymore, but I think about her often. I stayed there for 3 months, paying $50 a fortnight in rent, while getting my life together, applying for government benefits, trying to find a job, my family never allowed me to work, and attending uni. I eventually rented my own apartment, got a well-paying career, finished my degree with difficulty, and now barely speak to my awful family. 3. I truly left, on purpose. My boyfriend took me, 17F, my clothes, and my dog. I lied to avoid conflict and told my mother I'd be back. I never went back or called. A few years later, she emailed me, and we met at a public bookstore to talk. It was rough and awkward, but maybe the relationship could be rebuilt. A couple of weeks later, I came home from work, and she was in my driveway. She had followed me from the bookstore and been stalking me since. We have had 100% no contact since, and she has never met my children. 4. Growing up, I didn't have a dad. All I had was a drug-dealing brother 15 years older than me who I idolized, a twin, and a manipulative, abusive mother. When I was 6, my brother went to rehab, so I became the adult in the house because my mom never did anything. After years of physical and emotional abuse from her, both my twin and I became unbalanced. I attempted self-harm. My twin became so aggressive she ended up in a psychiatric hospital and then foster care. No one knows why I wasn't fostered too. By 15, my mom was kicking me out constantly. I would come home, only for her to slam the door in my face, and I would sleep on the streets. This went on for almost a year, though a boyfriend's family tried to house me as much as possible. One day at school, I texted my mom saying I was coming home that night. She replied saying she never wanted me to come home again. I went AWOL and sofa surfed. For some reason, my mom called the police and reported me missing. Eventually, the police found me and told me the situation, but since I was 16, they couldn't force me to go home. I only returned once to grab my stuff when she wasn't there. And before my GCSEs in Britain, I had been homeless and then got my own flat. If you're still watching, means you're enjoying the stories. Subscribe so you can look forward to more stories like these. Now on to 5. I left home when I was 17. My mom and stepdad were going through a rough patch with 2 young kids and a tight budget, and they took all their anger out on me. I would give them £150 each month for living there. At the time, I was working 40 hours a week as an apprentice, making about £550 a month while also studying. I had Saturdays and Sundays mostly to myself and usually spent them with my boyfriend, now husband, staying over Friday and Saturday nights and coming back late Sunday afternoon. Most days after work, I'd come home and be stuck looking after my younger siblings. My mom started work 20 minutes after I finished, and I was expected to look after them until my stepdad got home from work at 9 p.m. I had to cook dinner for them, bathe them, clean up, and get them in bed before he arrived. Some nights he worked late and wouldn't get home until after 10. I started work at 7:30 each morning and had to get up at 6 to make it on time. The morning I decided to leave, they were arguing. They had both been out drinking and got in at 4:30 a.m. I was annoyed at being woken up, but even more annoyed that they woke my siblings and then told me to sort them out because they were too drunk. When I reminded them I had to get up for work, they completely lost it. They blamed me for their marriage breaking down. Said I complained about watching the kids and got no thanks, worked too many hours, didn't help around the house, and didn't give enough money to cover my living costs, even though I made £550 and gave £150. Honestly, I could go on. That day I knew my mom would be visiting my gran, so I asked my manager if I could finish early, and went home. I grabbed just the essentials: clean clothes, underwear, socks, a picture of my siblings, and my phone charger. I took my SIM card out of my phone and threw it away so they couldn't contact me. I went to live with my boyfriend a few towns away. They knew I was safe, but never tried to reach out or ask me to come back. Luckily, my manager let me start and finish later. Later that year, I left work on medical grounds and started somewhere closer to where we were living. Fast forward about 5 years to February 2018. I was doing my weekly shop and heard her voice behind me. I knew instantly it was her. She looked awful. The store had a cafe, so I offered to get coffee and talk. She told me that after I left, she and my ex-stepdad divorced. He left with nothing, and she and my siblings had to stay in a refuge until she could find a place to live and work. She had been diagnosed with depression and attempted suicide twice, which led my siblings to live with their dad. She said she always thought about me and missed me, but couldn't bring herself to contact me after everything. We cried and exchanged numbers. We talk most days now, and she's invited me and my husband for Christmas. I don't think we'll ever have the mother/daughter bond we had as kids, but at least she's trying to make things better. 6. Does 18 count? Probably not. The thing is, you need somewhere to go. I ran away many times before 18, but that usually meant walking until I was too tired, sleeping under a bridge, and going back home in the morning where it was warm, or leaving one sleepover for another, sometimes for weeks. When I turned 18, I took my savings and went backpacking, planning to never return, and I didn't. My earlier attempts failed because I was a kid with no money. Anyone who succeeds as a broke miner would have to fall into someone's care, good or bad. Our parents used to leave Friday night and come back Monday morning, smoking weed in the garage in between. They didn't care about me or my 4 siblings beyond awkward greetings in the kitchen, like we were ex-college roommates, not their kids. They bought food for the house once a month. Their mini fridge was off limits. And they brought home stray cats, leaving the house full of cat urine, fleas, and clutter from garage sales. They weren't evil, just criminally immature. My step-siblings' parents would bring them food and sign permission slips, but I had no one else. I think I hoped they'd notice me more than I hoped I'd find somewhere new. Neither worked out. 7. I was 16. In many ways, I was a financially privileged kid, but I can't remember a time when my dad wasn't emotionally and physically abusive, and my mom never did anything about it, even when it happened right in front of her. I moved in with a bunch of young people who were living on their own, but I was the youngest. Got a job doing overnights at a diner. I kept in touch with my parents. I think they didn't report me because my dad didn't want his abuse to be made public. I'm not really sure. I finished high school early, got married early, had kids early, and got an advanced degree with student loans and my husband's help. I never moved back home, but I visited often. In the long run, things turned out really well. My dad has made a lot of amends, though we can't really talk about my childhood because he breaks down. My mom has never left her denial, which makes things hard. I do want to say I had a lot of help. Teachers who cared and bought me lunch when I was starving. Cops who arrested a guy trying to solicit me for prostitution while I worked at the diner and waited for me after my shift. Friends who made the world less dark and scary. I knew a lot of runaway teens, and I was incredibly lucky. 8. A friend ran away from his drug and alcohol abusing dad. His dad physically abused him while blackout drunk or nearly overdosing on whatever drug he was on. He emptied his bank account into his wallet, about $4,000, and took literally everything he could fit into both his truck and mine. Basically everything except furniture, while his dad was out with the dealer. He moved into our guest room. He's basically family now since that was 4 years ago. That's all for now. 9. My parents used to kick me out of the house as punishment when we argued. This was one of many abusive punishments they used to keep me in line over the years. After I turned 18, we started arguing a lot because I was trying to make plans for my future, and I was literally told I wasn't allowed to. Not only could I not plan ahead, I wasn't allowed to move on and live an adult life. I wasn't allowed to get a job, move out, or go to college. These were real things I was told I couldn't do as an 18-year-old high school senior. The first time they made me sit outside after turning 18 was a freezing February night, 4 months after my birthday. That's when I realized there was a whole world of better options for me than the life I was in. By the next time they pushed me out, I had snuck most of my stuff out. A friend helped by stuffing her backpack with my things or picking up stuff I hid outside. It took only 4 days to get ready for the next time they kicked me out in the middle of the night, about a week later. That night, I just turned and walked away, and I never looked back. My parents tried showing up at school and making a scene, telling everyone I ran away, but I could defend myself. They actually kicked me out, and I was 18, so I didn't have to go back. The police or school couldn't force me. I finished senior year couch surfing, but life is normal now. Despite the hardships, I love being free. I'm working on my second university degree, have my own place, dogs, and a job that pays the bills. Sometimes I just appreciate driving my own car, leaving my house whenever I want, and sending a text without being watched. It could have been worse. 10. I ran away just after turning 15. I had been living with my dad, a narcissistic alcoholic. My mom didn't really want me living with her. She lived a few states away. Several very generous families took me in over the next 3 years until I finished high school. I had to change houses sometimes because my dad threatened to sue anyone I stayed with. One man in particular became like a father to me and helped me heal. Living alone with my dad all my life caused psychological issues and warped ideas about family and love. I kept my grades up and went on to a prestigious university. I became a software engineer. I love my life now, and very few people know my backstory. I have no contact with my dad. 11. I left home when I was 17 and stayed with my boyfriend's super generous mom. She knew about the abuse I was going through until I finished high school. My mom couldn't do anything at that point because she was in a homeless shelter, and since I had a willing guardian, the police wouldn't force me to go back. After high school, I moved around a lot, was homeless for a bit, and eventually got a job that could pay the bills and rented a room. I couldn't finish college because it was too expensive, but I've been working ever since. I live in the same city, but my mom moved back to my grandma's house in Florida, as far as I know. We haven't talked in over 10 years. I'm married to a great guy, living in a house we own, and I start a new job on the 30th. Life is good. 12. I grew up with a drunk dad, and even as a kid, supported him financially. He was abusive, so I found a $300 truck and left. I couch surfed and then found a family who let me live there in exchange for taking care of their house and cars. I had a knack for it and was obsessive about detail. Got a job at a paint shop, then worked construction. Became foreman within 3 months. Saved money, bought a house at 21, lived on the patio, rented out all the rooms. It was tough, but it made money. Now I work in-house building maintenance and make over $80,000 a year. And I run my own small maintenance business making $20 minus $30K. I own 2 rental houses, live on 2 acres with my wife and 2 kids, have 2 cats, 3 garages, and 16 mostly antique cars. I fix cars for people in need, especially single parents, for free. I teach people how to fix their own cars in a supervised environment with professional tools. Life never gets easier, but it can always get better. 13. My grandmother ran away at 17 from a very dysfunctional family. Affairs, drugs, money problems, and moved from Utica to NYC to work for my great-uncle, who later became a congressman. She met my grandfather in D.C., and the rest is history. She's still alive at 95. 14. My son-in-law ran away from home at 12. His parents were one of those child-of-the-earth hippie types, basically bums. They camped in the woods instead of having a home. His dad cared only about whiskey and weed, and his mom did shady things for money. He didn't have a good childhood and only went to school so his parents could be rid of him for a few hours. At 12, he decided he was better off on his own. He already knew how to hunt and fish, and had been living in the wild most of his life. He left, lived on the streets until he was 16, stayed with friends when possible, slept in the woods or broke into school when he couldn't find anywhere else, and relied on whatever food friends' families would give him for 2 to 3 days at a time. He survived 3 years with almost no money, starting at 12. To put it in perspective, most kids at 6 p.m. worry about homework. He worried about gathering enough fire to stay warm at night. By 18, he got into engineering school. Now he's doing amazing. Some people go through hell and come out stronger. It's really admirable. 15. My grandpa ran away from home at 15. His dad was a rich opium-smoking junkie. If my grandpa had stayed, he probably would have become a junkie too. He always felt guilty about leaving his 7-year-old brother, never found him while he was alive, but my uncle and dad tracked him down 50 years later. That's all for now. Don't forget to subscribe so I can keep bringing you more of these stories. Thanks for sticking around till the end. See you next time, and take care.